We are Heather and Paul Christie.
And for over 12 years, we've worked with executives and entrepreneurs to accelerate change in every aspect of their business.
Because we are in the fastest paced business environment that anyone has ever seen before.
So join us for the Evolve to Win show. Hi, and welcome to another Evolve to Win show. I almost messed that up. I was,
You're out of practice.
I was out of practice because of, I got sick during Christmas. What a bummer to get sick during Christmas. Got the flu, but Heather took care of me. But we had a fantastic Christmas, and I had a great birthday. I turned 50. And
monumental birthday.
And we went to Mexico to celebrate. So it was really awesome. Had an awesome time. And now we're back for 2019.
And we hope that all of you had fabulous holidays and a really, really happy new year.
Yeah. And so what we're talking about today is the benefits of getting into conscious thought and why we don't spend more time in there. And so we're just talking about what are the benefits of being in conscious thought.
And this topic really came up because you were having a conversation this morning with Bailey and her friend Kelsey.
Yep.
And what were they asking you about this topic? Why does it matter?
Well, I don't know exactly what they were asking me about. I don't know how we got on the topic. I think it's because we were talking about goal setting and how difficult it is for people sometimes to get themselves in a place where they're thinking. So this conscious thought is really about actively, proactively, intentionally thinking or problem solving.
And I think part of it was the question that came up about, you've probably heard people say before, you think you're thinking, but you're not thinking. Most people are not thinking.
Right.
And Bailey was asking the question. So, if a limiting belief comes up, what is it that you can do to control that or stop that from happening? And my response was, limiting beliefs are in our subconscious mind, right? Mm-hmm. They are not conscious thoughts. They're things that either come from us internally that are habitual thoughts, or maybe something happens in your environment that creates a limiting belief. But we were talking about the fact that the way to overcome limiting beliefs is to really get conscious about your thinking. Choose your thoughts.
Yeah. So I want to ask you who are listening right now, when you're in habitual thinking, is it easier to be in habitual thinking, or is it easier to be in conscious thought, like problem solving? And so what is it for you, Heather?
Oh, hands down, habitual thinking, because it takes no energy. I mean, like your conscious thought takes a lot of energy. It's why we don't do it. Our bodies are designed physiologically to sort of prevent us from doing this conscious thinking so we don't use up too much energy.
Yeah, and I think so. We've been designed this way for our bodies to use as little energy as possible. And so it even comes down to thinking. And so the reason why it's easier and why 99.9% of us spend, of humans spend their time, the majority of their time in habitual thinking is just because it's easier. It saves more calories and it's easier on our body. So think about the last time that you were in conscious thought where you were really trying to solve a problem. And maybe many of you during this time of year, you've used it to, set goals for yourself. You've reflected, if you've listened to some of our podcasts and Facebook Lives in the past, about sitting down and spending some time on reflecting on what you've been doing over the last year in 2018 and planning out this next year. Planning is a massive mental drain because you are in conscious thought. It's not habitual thinking. You actually have to think about and work on and problem solve and set a goal for yourself on what you want to do. So that's why you can find yourself kind of tired and beaten up a little bit from it.
And I think it's one of the reasons why people don't do put the kind of effort that they should into their goal setting and planning for their lives, because it really requires you to think. I mean, you've probably heard me say this before, but the most difficult question that we ask of our clients is such a simple question. It's, what do you want? And if you think about that, your response should be right there for you. But most people don't really know. They don't have enough specificity. So one of the questions that Bailey asked me, she said, how do I set goals this year that I actually really get excited about goals that I feel like I want to achieve versus just a goal that I feel like I need to or have to achieve. If you have a goal out there that you feel like you have to achieve, it's going to be really, really difficult to create the kind of motivation that you would need to have to stay consistent on the activity to achieve that goal. So I think it has everything to do with understanding the why behind the goal, right? If you don't have a big why behind your goals, a why that is so exciting that it makes you want to jump out of bed in the morning and go after it, then you probably have a goal that's not very compelling. And again, that all goes back to spending time in conscious thought to figure out what matters to you and why.
Yeah, and so a couple of tips as far as when you are taking time out to focus on conscious thought and problem solving or goal setting or whatever you're working on where you actually need to be thinking. And the best time to do that, of course, is in the morning because we have the most amount of energy in the morning. You notice in the afternoons and in the evenings, it's way more difficult to, for most people, it's way more difficult for people to be in conscious thought because you're already tired from the day.
Well, we actually come up with this thing that's a real thing called decision fatigue.
Yeah.
And the best time to make any kind of decisions, especially really important ones like, what do I want? What do I want to have for my life, my business this year? Really important to do that first thing in the morning. And that's not to say that you can't do some work towards it, pre-work in the afternoon. But when it comes time to make any important decisions, please, please always reserve that time first thing in the morning. And let me just give you a perfect example about how this decision fatigue plays out in real life. So I want you to think about this. If you are one who, like we are, where you're focused on healthy eating as much as you can be, do you ever find that it's much easier in the morning and even in the afternoon to make really good choices of what you're eating? Like, in the morning, we'll eat steel cut oatmeal that is the slow cook. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So slow cooked steel cut oatmeal. It's like low glycemic, high in fibers, everything good for you. And we'll eat fruit. And then for lunch, we might have a salad. And so what happens though is progressively, then when the decision fatigue sets in after work, you're like, well, I think I'm just going to have a couple cheese and crackers.
Yeah.
Right? Or for dinner, you maybe don't make as good a decision. Or maybe you're like, oh, I'll have another glass of wine. So if you've ever experienced this before, it's really not your fault. This is a physiological thing that happens.
It's not your fault.
It's not your fault. It's just called decision fatigue. So planning is the key to all of it, right?
Yeah.
You make the plan when you're really smart, which is in the mornings.
Yeah. So for best practices, to use this effectively, wake up an extra 15, 20 minutes early, grab yourself a cup of coffee, go into a quiet part of your house if you have that, wake up before everybody else does, and put yourself into that conscious thought. If you've have problems to solve or if you have things at work that you need to work on, the best time to do that is early in the morning and when your mind is still strong and full of energy, it's just the best time to do it. And I've learned this and I've used it before with from Earl Nightingale. Earl Nightingale was, around in the 40s and 50s and was one of the first
He's like the founder of personal growth.
Of professional development. If
Yeah.
you've never listened to Earl Nightingale, The Strangest Secret is one of the best of all time. It's kind of where everything started from in professional development. But, he really used that time in the morning to work on, improvements in his business. So he would write down 10 or 20 ways that he can improve his business on a daily basis and just write them down. And then he would put them into practice. And every day he would have a couple new ideas on the way to make his business better.
Yeah. And, it's really interesting. We were talking about ideas at this last conference we attended last week in Scottsdale. And, we see somebody who's got a great idea and they have tremendous success with it. And we make the mistake of thinking that idea was their first idea or their only idea, when in fact, most times we've cycled through and failed so many times that we finally get it right after, I don't know, the gazillionth idea. But one of our speakers gave the example of that video game Angry Birds, which I've never played before. It kind of creeps me out. But
why would it creep you out?
Well, because the birds are angry. I mean, they're like, you know,
just a
they look
game.
menacing. Anyway, Angry Birds, which was this massive success in terms of gaming, apparently that company went through 51 renditions of different games before they actually came up with Angry Birds. So what you see and what you know is Angry Birds, but what you don't know is the 51 times that they failed prior to coming up. So when, you know, everything that we're talking about now still has to do with conscious thought, right? Because that's where idea generation, that's where the creative access is in conscious thought.
Yeah. So thank you for joining us for another Evolve to Win show. We hope you enjoyed it, and take that time in the morning and use it while you're still full of energy, and solve problems and plan for yourself and do all those things up front so that you are not fatigued at the end of the day and making bad decisions. Anything else, Heather?
That's it for me. Hope you guys have a great day. If you're not connected with us yet, please go to heatherchristie.com and sign up for our leadership list, where we provide awesome content for you. Anything we can do to help you find greater success in life and in business, that's what we stand for. So have a great day, everybody.
Bye now.